Good evening, and welcome into the Believe in Monsters podcast for another week of Chicago Bears talk. Welcome into the Believe in Monsters podcast presented by your favorite sponsor here,
Miller Lite.
We like to drink your beer the best, so sponsor the program, Miller Lite, and all the great Miller Lite products. You can be sponsored right here prominently in our backgrounds and in our podcast. We are a proud partner of the Believe Network, so thankful to be a part of that group with those guys, and go out and give them a great follow. We're here to talk some Chicago Bears. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight talking about a revived video series that the Chicago Bears are putting on. We're going to talk about a couple of veteran former Bears signing contracts with other places. We'll talk a little bit of Vegas win totals and about a couple wide receivers, a couple ancillary wide receivers that have been given a roster spot that we have not hit on the podcast yet. So excited to get into it with the guys this week. And before we kind of get it rolling, so we'll talk to Lucas Berry and Chris Krogman. Luke, how's your week, man? You're looking great ahead of you in front of your bricks this week.
Yeah, baby, we got Brick Squad up here, all three of us. Chris is the only one with the real green screen, and his looks the worst, which is funny. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Krogman, how we doing tonight?
Awesome.
He's mad.
You're so dumb. I'm happy as a clam, Joe. I had one of my best days ever at work. I sell things, so I normally a really good day for me is about 50K in sales, and today I did about 90. So that's a big ass deal for me. So that was pretty cool. Always so happy to hang out with you two gentlemen, talk some Bears, talk some life as we do in and out of the show. So looking forward to tonight. Love 1920 football drive. So happy to talk about the Bears' own version of Hard Knocks, I guess, sort of, kind of. Bye, Luke. With your shit talking.
Where did he go? He'll be back. We'll get him
there
back.
He is. Oh, no bricks for Luke. No more being bricked up. Nope, there he goes. Joseph, how are you, friend? I don't know if we ever get to ask you that. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing well, doing good. I enjoyed a nice little long weekend, Memorial Day weekend. Got on the golf course a couple of times, so enjoyed that. Yeah, Alabama baseball was not selected for the NCAA tournament, so my sports season for the academic calendar year is now officially over. Thank the Lord. I get a couple of months where no active sports in my life, so I'm going to enjoy that and then get geared up for the football season.
What do most Alabama or the South region where you're at, what kind of professional baseball teams do y'all typically root for? Like the Braves, or who do they rock with?
Yeah, the Braves are easily the most popular team around here. A lot of Braves talk from the early '90s to the Turner Sports days, getting them on TV. I can remember watching the Braves with my granddad. Is kind of like the only. It was them, and strangely, if you got WGN, shout out Chicago, you could get the two Chicago teams on a regular basis. So big Braves supporting. Obviously, they're not doing well at the moment this year. But if you are a Braves fan, I caution you to remember last year the Braves didn't get above 500 until very late in the year. So they'll be all right. Braves baseball is going to keep people alive until Alabama football starts.
Yes, sir, indeedy.
I don't know if it'd be worse if Joe liked the Braves or the Yankees. The fact that he's a Yankees fan. But I don't know if it'd be any better if he actually liked the Braves.
Let's use fan loosely, because my baseball is like, this team scored, this team lost.
Yeah, fan is obviously short for fanatic, and that's what we are here at the BIM pod. Is fanatical about the Chicago Bears, as you can tell by the tone of my voice. I am fucking thrilled. No, seriously though.
Wait. Joe's a Bears fan? I feel like the Yankees probably likes the Cowboys and the Lakers.
How about them Cowboys?
Or the Celtics. Or more recently, the Bulls.
No,
The Bulls.
The Bulls are a dynasty. Probably one of the best that we've seen in our lifetimes anyway. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you boys, so I did get to see the Showtime Lakers and the Chicago Bulls. Dude, when I was growing up until like...
Tell me about Pistol Pete playing.
I can't tell you that. Up until like recently, there were only 8 NBA teams that had won every single championship. Up until like the Warriors did it, or up until like maybe it was up until like the Bulls, but like the Celtics, the Lakers, like every
Sixers
single
won a few.
Every single NBA team, the Pistons won like 2, the Blazers won 2, the Rockets won 2. Like everybody had multiple championships, with like the Lakers and the Celtics having just an ungodly amount of championships. So I'm glad that football's not exactly that way, but the Patriots and Steelers and Cowboys are kind of ruining that. But it's not like double digits for any of those franchises yet.
And I mean, even them, like the Patriots, historically, before Tom Brady, weren't very good. I mean, they had the one Super Bowl they got crushed by the Bears in, but like football, there's a lot of parity. That's why you got to love it. Like, unless you just have a Hall of Fame quarterback, you're probably not going to win more than 2 Super Bowls.
Is that the threshold? You have to be a Hall of Fame quarterback to win more than 2? Just asking.
Well, I personally, I just think you can transcend a lot of talent, but there's also exceptions to the rule, like Brady taking a massive pay cut to surround better talent around him. I mean, we'll see. The Chiefs experiment, I think, is fascinating moving forward when Patrick Mahomes' $500 million contract, kicks in. And I mean, we already started seeing the exodus. I mean, they lost Tyreek Hill, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I would say you win more than 2 Super Bowls, you're probably have a decent shot at making the Hall.
More than 2?
Yeah.
I was just trying to take a little shot at our friend Aaron Rodgers, only winning 1. That's all. No Hall of Fame for you.
Would Ben Roethlisberger be a Hall of Famer for you guys? 1, 2, and went to another
I think
one?
So. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, he only
so.
went to another one, so I was just curious.
Numbers are pretty good, though.
True. Would Eli Manning?
See, that's where you start. That's the fascinating debate. I don't think he's a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback, but his accolades alone might get him there, and the name. But I wouldn't put him in there.
I agree. I think that's a stretch.
But
yeah, definitely a stretch.
Terry Bradshaw. I mean, he has what, 4, 5?
4 or 5, yeah.
Let's
give Eli Manning's Hall of Fame status to that Giants defensive line.
There's a completely different game when Bradshaw played this. You can't look at numbers comparatively. You know what I mean? Like they ran the ball just way more often, and they played harder defense in the 70s than Eli ever faced in his heyday. So, he's just dopey too. I mean, I can't take Eli seriously half the time.
He's a complete goober. But let's get back on topic here. What were we even talking about today? Who their special team coach was?
What do you want to start with? Joe laid out a perfect agenda and schedule for you, Lucas, and he didn't even mention the special teams coach. That was pregame.
Yeah, we were just talking. Who's the special teams coach? Well, that's some scuttlebutt. It's Richard. It's Richard Hightower. Richard Hightower will be a first-year special teams coordinator with the Bears. He returns to Chicago after previously serving as an assistant special teams coach for the Bears in 2016. 15 years of NFL coaching experience, including the last 5 as special teams coordinator with the San Francisco 49ers. So that we were just like talking in thin air talking thin air, who's the special teams coordinator? It's Richard Hightower. But let's start with this 1920 football drive Chicago Bears series. Looks like I'm looking at 7 episodes that are available for the last 6 or 7, 8 weeks. I'm looking at how Poulsen, some of the titles, how Poulsen and Eberflus reshaped the Bears roster. I'm looking at the hiring of Poles in Eberflus. I'm looking at there's a little tiny short little trailer, 20-second trailer, building the 53-man roster and staff discussions. And we've got inside training camp meetings, joint practice. So we got several episodes. Actually, it looks like only about 2 of them are relevant for the current for our the most recent times of the Bears, hiring Ryan Poles and then kind of getting this draft under our belts with Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus. So I'll turn it over to Chris Krogman. I haven't looked at some of these episodes yet, but they look like my evening wind down after we get done with our podcast. What have you seen, Chris Krogman, out of these first couple episodes? You got a 12-minute video on hiring Poles and a 25-minute video on the NFL draft.
So I actually didn't get an opportunity to watch the Poles video, but a lot of the highlights from the draft video were floating around Twitter with Eberflus giving Poles a bottle of alcohol to celebrate his first draft. And
what's his preferred? What was the alcohol? Do you remember?
It was like a
Miller Lite.
It definitely wasn't Miller
A bottle
Lite.
of Malort.
It was.
Welcome to Chicago.
It was Fireball. No, I think it was like Woodbridge or Wood. I don't remember what. I don't drink Wood. It looked like a whiskey of some sort, or
Woodford Reserve.
That makes sense.
So, a lot of that was floating around on the Twitterverse, but I watched the draft episode, so covers a little bit of the pre-draft, the walk around Hallis Hall. They have a little bit with like Justin Jones checking in for OTAs, quite a bit with him for what all the players have to go through, like to get checked in at the stadium. There's like 13 different like zones for them to go check in. So they do their height and weight, they go get their equipment, they get their playbook, they do some sort of marketing campaign, something or other, or check in with the PR people. They meet they go with their coaches, they go to if they haven't been with the team before, I'm sure they do a tour of the facility. So they went through like the cafeteria, they went through the weight room, things like that. So just a kind of a cool behind the scenes, because I'm never gonna get to go to Hallis Hall. I mean, I don't think get to walk around the hallowed halls of George Hallis Hall, but
that's a tongue twister.
It's really fun to watch 1920 football drive and see what these guys go through to check in. They did a little bit of the OTA stuff. Then with the draft, which was cool. They call Kyler Gordon, and he's super pumped, obviously. They call Brisker, and it's pretty funny because Brisker says, like, you got the steal of the draft. You got the steal of the draft. Like, that dude's pissed, man. He's pissed that he got taken as late as he did. So that's gonna be interesting to see him play with that chip on his shoulder. And then they call Velus Jones when he's at home with his family, and he shed some tears of excitement and joy becoming a Chicago Bear, and it looks like everybody's pumped up for this draft class. So it was a lot of fun. If you enjoy those kinds of, I'd liken it to like that QB1 series or the like Path to the Draft with Justin Fields. It was kind of similar to that, but obviously all Bears related and whatnot. So it was really good. Check it out.
Bears.
And I'm gonna check out that Poles hiring video because I missed that one, but it's solid. Good stuff. Go Bears.
Well, sweet. Luke, have you checked out any of the series, 1920 Football Drive?
I have not, but I watched last year's and I really enjoyed it. I kind of didn't know they were making new episodes of it, so I will, like you said, it's some good stuff to watch before you go to bed. But normally hearing Jeff Joniak makes me want to run through a wall, so I don't know if that's the best idea.
He's the best. He is the best. Him and Tom Thayer. Tom Thayer always sitting next to him in the booth with his Barry glasses so thick. I like to get listen to announcers and stuff, but Tom Thayer definitely bleeding blue and orange. Love hearing his commentary.
He is a big Bears fan. He's a big hometown supporter.
How do you feel about that on your radio broadcast? Because others listening to all of the different Bama broadcasts with the different sports, they've all got different announcers, and some of them play more down the middle than others. How do you feel about a homer on your broadcast?
I think it's disgusting. It makes me I hate watching. So like the NBA, so like if you've had the different sports packages, you got the NFL package, you got the MLB package, the NBA package, NHL, right? NFL is the only one that really has like national broadcasters on every broadcast. They typically don't have a former player with a color or a play-by-play announcer. They have a color guy and then they have a play-by-play announcer, neither which usually played for the team, sometimes whatever. But when you get to the NBA, it's always a former player and a play-by-play guy. And some of them are good. Some of them are like pretty right down the middle, and they'll talk up the other team. They'll tell you about the other team because really they're tired of talking about their own team because that's all they have to talk about most of the time. But then there's the guys that are just nonstop. Oh, that wasn't a foul. Oh, I don't know what they're doing here. Blah, blah, blah. And it's just not fun to watch the game, especially like if for whatever reason you're rooting for the other team, it just drives you bonkers. And it's not even my squad that's out there, and I'm just like, come on, guys, please. Baseball is the exact same way. And then hockey you can't really, it's hard to get homerish. There's a lot of moving parts in hockey, but I don't care for homer broadcasts. What about you, Lucas?
No, I'm with you. I don't. You're spot on about basketball being the absolute worst. Some of those announcers are just terrible, and there's nothing worse than getting that kind of broadcast on your TV.
It's always really the former players that are terrible.
Joe, is it that bad, Joe? The radio broadcast for the Bears?
Joniak is a professional. He's absolutely a professional. So he's pretty down the middle with it. I mean, he's down the middle with a slight lean for the Bears. And I like Tom Thayer. I really do. But Tom Thayer is he's pretty damn homerish. So
I don't know how often I catch myself listening to Bears games. I just hear the clips of the clips that the Bears post of Joniak, which are always awesome.
Yeah, Joniak's great,
but
and there's I don't really think there's anything wrong with Tom Thayer, and maybe just because he's basically speaking my language, but I don't know. With some of the I'll just spin it. Some of the Alabama broadcasts, I'll be watching the game and be like, that's not exactly what's going on. But that's the way it goes sometimes when you're got a lot of different people working for different roles in the team. I do like Tom Thayer, but he will get on to the refs here and there, and he will be pretty pro Chicago Bears, which that's what they're paying him for.
I'm gonna have to start listening to solely Tom Thayer so I can really enjoy this, because I'll be yelling at the TV with the referees, and Thayer will be right there with me saying
That's exactly right
how bad they are. I wonder I would like to hear his broadcast from the Steelers Monday night game last year and just hear how bad he went off about that, because that was probably the worst ref game of the season by all accounts. A lot of people didn't feel like that was a Steelers fan. Even Steelers fans, I have a text from my brother-in-law that was like, "Yeah, we might have stole that one there." So
Didn't the linebacker? Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Didn't he recently put a little TikTok out there?
Yeah, Cassius Marsh.
Yes, basically saying, "Oh, when you're playing the Steelers on Monday night or something," it was like everything was going against him in the video or something.
From what I gathered from the video, he was pretending to run over the ref who hip checked him with his car.
oh, geez.
Yeah, it was like the audio of like some song, and then like it was like him driving, like looking around, and then all of a sudden you just hear thump 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 thump. I'm like, that's probably him running over the ref, and if that's what it is,
that's not
it's
sir.
It's a little bit funny. I don't even know if the guy's employed anymore for the team, but
Who, Marsh? Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, he was probably on a 1-year deal, but
He was average as white bread.
I loved
he had a lot of tattoos, so he wasn't that
Yeah.
white. He was very colorful.
Very colorful. I liked his sack celebration, the kung fu kick,
Hey, yeah.
the roundhouse kick.
He was one of those like Lamar Houston's celebration
man.
where he's going to tear his ACL just celebrating, jumping around and kicking.
Or Martin Gramatica was my favorite that did that.
Oh my god!
That hurt himself.
Didn't he do a backflip?
Nah, he did like the same thing that Lamar Houston did. He jumped up and I feel like he even jumped into a teammate's arms, and then when he came down, he tore his ACL.
Bastard.
Jingle.
All right. Well, tomorrow's a big day in the NFL circle, Joe. June 1st. What does June 1st mean?
Isn't that the official start of the new league year? Yes, maybe.
No.
No, and the new league year's in March when free agency starts.
Okay.
Yes. We
Most
tomorrow
one cuts. Who's up
is
for the Bears? Who's getting snipped?
potential.
Yeah, that's right. You can designate players for post June 1 cuts, which help you kind of navigate cap space in the offseason if you so desire. So that's why
we would already know about this, right? Or no? Would we not know about this?
I feel like you would.
I mean,
Unless-
can teams do that with the league and not announce it to the public?
Well, I think outside of that, the teams could just release players and get out of their contracts that way.
Yes. So some possible names from a couple different sources. PFF has linebacker Deion Jones from the Atlanta Falcons as a potential June 1st cut. Guard Isaac Seumalo from the Eagles. Darius Slayton from the Giants, who was the source or the center of some trade rumors earlier in the offseason. One Derek Wolfe from the Baltimore Ravens, formerly of the Broncos. Running back Chris Carson from the Seattle Seahawks, often injured Chris Carson, I might add. And edge rusher D. Henry Ford from the San Francisco 49ers. Any interest in any of those players, Lucas?
Not really. more honestly, I'm interested to see what kind of veteran linemen hit the market, because I do think the Bears need to add probably another interior lineman, and now would be a good time to do it if some become available post June 1. Basically, the post June 1st cut means the player's cap hit gets, instead of going all to 1 year, the dead hit, it gets split up over 2 years, basically.
The Bears actually did make some designations. Do y'all remember who the two designations were?
Goldman.
What I'm reading right here is Danny
And Trevathan.
Trevathan and Tariq Cohen were the two June 1st cuts.
Well, those are designations, which you can do two
right.
of, and then June 1st you can actually do as many as you need to. Fan-sided NFL Spin Zone put out one for every team. And the Bears one is an interesting one because he just signed in the offseason. They put Nicholas Morrow on there as a potential surprise cut. But Cardinals, don't ask me. This is fan-sided, bro. This is a USAID question.
Did USAID write this?
No. Doesn't USAID write for fan-sided sometimes? Or that's 24/7 Sports. Never mind. Don't listen to me.
He's all over the internet, man.
It's one of he has lots of bylines, dude. I mean, our friend USAID is quite the he gets around a lot. Let's just say that.
He gets around.
Maybe it's not a bad thing.
No, not in this case. Not like not like our friend. God, what's her name? Now that
Roquan Smith.
That's what I was gonna say, but like the girl, not him. Who's the adult film star? Lucas?
Oh, Bella Danger.
Well, I was hoping Lucas. No, not the God-fearing Joe Gaither. Bella Danger.
That was a big story. That was a big story, and maybe her morals are a little loose, but she's a beautiful woman.
Speaking of loose morals, no, I'm just kidding. So DJ Humphries from the Cardinals, Kevin Zeitler from the Ravens, I think is an interesting name. Yeah, I'll go through these and throw out the interesting names. Sam Darnold from the Carolina Panthers was interesting, which I think is totally possible. Dearness Johnson from the Browns. He played well last year at times.
Anyone will play well behind that offensive line.
Jared Davis from the Lions. Maybe. He's kind of been a letdown from my understanding. Paris Campbell from the Colts. Another wide receiver that we probably don't need, and we'll get into some of those.
Let's talk about the wide receivers we picked up off the scrap heap.
Scrap heap. I thought he was a great player. I was told that Dante Pettis still had a lot left in the tank. Joe,
who told you that?
There are some people like Ralph Bennington III that told me that.
He's not to be trusted, but I do like Dante Pettis. I really do think that that's going to be an interesting signing for our Chicago Bears, bringing him in from formerly of the San Francisco 49ers. Former second-round pick. My computer's going really slow. I'm pulling up his statistics for the last couple of seasons. Here we go. Last year, 2021, he played in 3 games for the New York Giants. So he went from San Francisco to the New York Giants. Played in 3 games, got 10 catches, 87 yards, and a touchdown last year. But I don't know. He was a guy that I think might be able to kind of revive his, get back on the map. I don't really see him being superstar level. Not like, oh my God, we got to go re-sign this guy to a big contract. But I think that Dante Pettis at 26, 27 years old is going to be a player that he's going to fight for his position. He's going to fight for reps right there in the less than stellar Bears wide receiver room. Right now, our friends at Our Lads have him rolling as the second wide receiver behind Equanimeous St. Brown, basically playing the second X outside of the first 3 being Mooney, St. Brown, and Pringle. They have their next 3 being Tajay Sharp, Pettis, and Vance Jones.
That's my guy. I like Sharpay better than Pettis, I think. But perhaps Pettis' skill set fits better with what Fields wants to do, because Sharp is not as fast and not as dynamic as a downfield threat. But I do think Sharp is probably a better X receiver overall.
Being a fantasy football player, Pettis was on the list, I think 2 or 3 years ago, like before they drafted Brandon Ayuk out there in San Francisco. Pettis was, a prime breakout candidate, and he just never broke out. So It's an interesting name. I kind of with Joe. I think there's potential there, but I don't think he's anything special. Tajay Sharp just reminds me of because didn't he play in Tennessee for a minute?
Yeah, his rookie, he broke out and he was pretty good. His first year, he had 41 receptions for 522 yards. And then he kind of just went downhill from there. But he had some games in that regular season where he was really good for them.
Just reminds me of that other wide receiver they signed from Tennessee who was like the Bears' #1, like in
Kendall Wright.
Kendall Wright. Yeah, thank you.
Gross.
I mean, and not that there are similar players at all. It just reminds me of that. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, one of these guys will probably make the team, and one of these guys will probably actually get a decent amount of snaps. So may the best trash heap player win.
How do y'all feel about that? Ryan Poles going out and just getting these guys who don't have, a lot of the history and the stats, but we're not paying them really like that either. So we're paying these guys minimal money, but kind of giving a lot of guys a different chance to come in and crack the roster.
I love it. I mean, these are the kind of players that I always loved that Pace signed. So now I'm curious to see how Poles does in this same arena. Pace had Akeem Hicks, who was, signed from the Saints when he wasn't, that big of a name. He had who's the guy there was a defensive tackle in there. Anyway, Pace always liked to pick up these guys. The cornerback, Prince Amukamara, played well on his 1-year deal and got a extended deal after that. So I'm curious to see how Poles does, kind of like you said, these trash heap signings. One man's trash is another man's treasure.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. These guys might be beautiful for us.
They might be beautiful. Luke Getsy might be able to put lipstick on a pig and make them beautiful for everybody there, Joseph. Macklemore wrote an entire song about thrift store shopping. So maybe Ryan Poles listened to that and was like, let's go get me some Tajay Sharp.
If I had to pick one guy, though, that I was going to be like, oh, yeah, this guy at Poles sign is going to be kind of a breakout, it would definitely be Pringle. I think Pringle. I honestly, I know some people are like, oh, people are over. Pringle should have a pretty big year for the Bears. He's going to see a ton of opportunity, and the Bears don't have much else. So Pringle and Mooney. Pringle will be the guy.
It's gonna be Cole. It's Cole's year.
I'm saying the one signing though that like Poles made that I think we'll look back and be like, oh yeah, that was a great signing. Will probably be Pringle.
Great signing, or just best of this first year.
I think Pringle has potential to be a great signing for what we paid him.
Yeah, sure. What do we pay him?
If he has 700 or 800 yards this year, I would consider that a great signing.
Yeah. I mean, if he has 700 or 800 yards this year and Mooney has 11 to 1,300 and Kmet has 5, yeah, that's a phenomenal year. That means we had a phenomenal year.
Signed him 1 year for $4.2 million, Krogman.
Oh, yeah, that's beautiful.
And I mean,
that's pretty much the cost of a can of Pringles.
He had 568 and 5 last year as their wide receiver 4 or 5. So I don't think 700 or 800 is that unreasonable where he's going to see more targets.
You're talking 568 on a much more oiled machine of an offense, though. So
I'm just saying his target share is going to be astronomically high. So, or at least it should be. They're going to try and feed him a lot. So we'll see. I don't know. That's my prediction is that Pringle will be the guy. It's like, hey, great signing Poles. Or maybe Lucas Patrick. I like him too.
Well, I think that hopefully one of those guys works out, like you said, Lucas.
Well, while we're on this topic, the interesting kind of discussion on Twitter has been, have the Bears done enough for Justin Fields? And are you satisfied with it? Joe, I'm going to go to you first on this one.
Have they done enough for Justin Fields? Objectively, no. But given the resources that they have and the position that they're in, I think I think you have to consider the circumstances, and maybe I'm just an apologist for the general manager, and I am at the moment because all my hopes are high. And I've always been a cheap ass. I've always been use your resources, frugally, and don't go out and spend a whole lot of money, overextend yourself. So from that perspective, I have enjoyed or thought that what Ryan Poles is doing is smart. I think that I obviously you didn't go out and sign Jarvis Landry, and Julio Jones is still out there, and so you got a lot of names. You got a handful of names that are still out there, but they're going to cost you more money than you probably like to pay. Have we done enough for Justin Fields? No, is my simple answer. But I think there's a lot more to that answer, given your needs on the defensive side of the football, the money situation that Ryan Poles overextended you in a big way, limited draft picks limited draft picks because of Ryan Pace, trading up and trading away a lot of the picks. So I think it's just easy money and easy picks and easy clicks for these writers to go after one of the biggest markets in football and say that their general manager isn't doing enough. Their general manager hasn't done enough for Justin Fields. But I think, with a closer dissection, and I think that we're doing as much as we can at the current moment.
Chris?
With what was available, and with and I'm including resources as well, draft picks, things like that, I think they did what they could in year one with Fields. And there's too big of an unknown of how inept Nagy and company were, how inept the previous regime was at developing talent. Like, think about all the wide receivers that Mike Fury had access to that never materialized into dick shit, Riley Ridley, Javon Wims, Anthony Miller. They were all talented to some degree. Like Riley Ridley, I never understood any of that at all. Like, 4th round pick, he had the pedigree. When he got into games, I thought he made a couple catches, but he must have shown nothing in practice to never get snaps. But what was Fury doing to make him any better? I don't know. But going back to your question, Luke, I think they did what they could. Was it enough? Probably not. But we don't know, what any of these free agent signings were going to be that got big contracts or whatever that were available out there, and we couldn't assign those. And Joe, I don't know if you were saying Landry was available still. He signed with the Saints.
No, yeah,
but he was available like as a late
couple weeks ago, a little bit after the draft. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, there could still be some interesting cuts. We've seen Jalen Reagor floated out there. We've seen Darius Slay floated out there. Slayton floated out there. The Patriots have been up and down with N'Keal Harry. That could be an interesting potential cut. I mean, he's fast and big. I mean,
he's a blocker.
He's a Quiminian State Brown, but faster. Is what you're saying, Lucas. So, I mean, I don't know. Well, there's just too many unknowns. So I'm going to say TBD.
Luke, you're the football expert here. What do you think?
Lucas, what do you think, sir?
Well, Joe, I agree with you. Looking at it objectively, I would say, just straight out no, but going deeper into it and looking at the, the cap situation they were handed and what's going on, it just seems like, I I don't know. I feel like they could have done a little bit more, at least on the offensive line front. That's my biggest catch. Whether they would have brought back James Daniels for, a 2 or 3 year contract or just another veteran to put in there. I like the draft strategy of them, taking all those linemen on day 3, but obviously those are day 3 linemen. And when you don't have a lot of picks to begin with, that's kind of what you're given. So just going back to, the hand that they're dealt. Yeah, sure. I think Poles did fine in his first off season, but I do think he could have did a little bit more. I don't think, I'm not as worried about the wide receiver room because I think Fields can make a lot of those guys better, and, really good wide receivers just don't grow on trees and are readily available. But I think the offensive line, I would have liked to see at least one more veteran brought in, or even just James Daniels re-signed at guard. Just because I think they're putting a lot of pressure on Jenkins and Bourne to be good in their second year, and then also possibly start an unknown man in the middle alongside Patrick, who's always been kind of like, a rotational lineman for Green Bay, and Whitehair having a bounce back year. So it's kind of a lot of question marks up front, which is what worries me the most. I do think the scheme will help out, a decent amount, but those are my worries. So overall, I would say no, they didn't do quite enough to help Fields, but I'm not out here saying, Fields is going to be dead by week 6, because I think there is a possibility that it all works out, and I'm sure fans will say, "Oh, Poles got lucky," but if it works out, hey, it works out. It's what we hired him for. Chris, you're right though. It's all TBD. I mean, we really can't make any kind of rash judgments until we see how this thing shakes out.
For sure.
That's where I think people need to just calm down. It's just like, all right, you believe your thing, I believe what I believe. Let's just see how it works out. And
well, if you were, everybody wants to have an opinion and argue about things now.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, if it does happen that it does work out and Fields is better and doesn't get sacked as much, those fans that were saying he's going to get killed are going to be like, oh, well, Poles got lucky. He was just guessing. They won't ever give credit, and it works both ways. It's just like, that's why I'm glad. I'm glad we can talk about this, because I feel like we're all pretty level-headed.
It is tiresome, though, for me to hear the Bears don't believe in Justin Fields. They're not building around him, or that kind of narrative. I think that's just way overblown.
It doesn't make any sense.
So.
Even if they didn't like him, they would still try and pump up his value to trade him. They wouldn't just let him get killed. It'd suck. Here's the bright side. If the Bears are in contention for a top 5 pick, you have your choice of Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or anyone else. So if the Bears are that bad and Fields sucks that bad, all right, great. We have another crack at it next year. But it's not going to happen. The Bears will back to the Vegas total. I think they're going to win more than 6 games.
What do you guys think about Tevin Jenkins losing like 30 pounds and what did he do? Pilates or yoga or something, and then he stopped eating carbs and lost like 30 pounds?
I should do that. Stop eating carbs.
How much does he weigh now?
185 pounds.
30 pounds less than last year.
Yeah, I have no idea what he was last year.
Probably 325, 330. He's probably around like 310-ish. I mean, he still looks pretty big.
Well, Ryan Poles did say put an emphasis on getting these guys slimmed down and faster. So sounds like they're really gearing up for this outside zone.
Well, they need to quit being big fat fucks who can't protect anybody.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of outside zone, I think it's another topic we could dive into. There's been a lot of discourse about David Montgomery. Last year of his contract. First, if there's a potential trade for David Montgomery at the trade deadline, do you do it? I doubt that would materialize. 2, is that a guy you would try and bring back? I mean, Eberflus raves about how much of a leader he is, yada, yada, yada. But, going to a new outside zone scheme, he's not the fastest dude. Plays with a lot of heart. He's really likable, but is he that good of a running back that you would re-sign him to be a Chicago Bear a few more years?
to close the loop on the Tevin Jenkins, he says he's down to 325.
How fucking big was this dude?
He says last season I was up to 345. I was 33% body fat. Now I'm down to about 24. Slimming down is difficult, but you got to discipline yourself, right diet, and make sure your body does what it's supposed to do. Quote Tevin Jenkins. But David Montgomery, no. If he's a guy that people are calling for at the trade deadline this year, I mean, you have to assess where you are as a team. Are we in the playoff hunt, or are we in the tube? And if you're in the tube, you know, as I guess all the national people expect us to suck. If we're in the tube, yeah, you send his ass away for a 3rd, 4th, 5th round pick as best you can. Now, you love his leadership, and I think he's been a tough running back for us. But the same sort of thing of Jordan Howard. I thought he was a tough running back for us. I loved him on his rookie contract, but you weren't giving that guy a second deal. And are you doing that for David Montgomery? I mean, it depends on what he's after. Is he after big money? No. If he's after big money, sayonara, buddy. Go play for the Seahawks or somebody. I don't care. But like,
no, they drafted another running back in the second round. That's their specialty.
So no, I mean you have a lot of circumstances at play there, but if you're asking me going into the season, if I'm Ryan Poles, no, he's definitely one of those guys in my back pocket that I'm like, you know, if the timing's right, if the situation's right, you know, at week 7, 8 when the trade deadline comes, he might be one of those guys that you ship off, because we've talked about our love for the backup running back,
Herbert.
And then you drafted Treston Ebner. You drafted, you know, another guy out of whatever, Oklahoma State, no, Baylor, one of those Big 12 schools that you got him out of.
Baylor.
So I don't think that he's valuable enough to say we got to have him for the next 4 or 5 years.
Kroger, what do you think?
Number one, I don't think anybody would want to trade for him.
Yeah, that's probably not going to happen.
Like, starting running backs in that caliber range, just like where he's at, just don't get traded. And running backs in general don't get traded. It's the guys that are like gadget pieces or just in case guys. You know, it's never the guy. You know. I mean, what situation happens outside of an injury where a team's like, we have to have David Montgomery? I just don't see it happening, especially for anything of significance. A 4th rounder even seems high to me middle of the season, when another team's like, nah, he's on his last year of his deal. We get it in a trade, and then what? You know, is he gone? So he's a rental player at that point. Yeah. And in baseball, rental players don't get shit. So I don't think football is going to be any different. So that's my take on the trade front. If for some, you know, weird reason somebody's like, oh yeah, we'll give you a 4th for him or a 5th for him. Okay. I mean, I'll listen, you know, depending on where we're at and depending on what the management thinks about bringing him back, or if there's been contract talks up until that point. As far as bringing him back, I'd be willing to look at like a 3-year, $15 to $18 million deal, you know, $5-6 million a year. But like, he's probably going to want more, at least, you know, $9-10 million a year. But to me, running backs are a dime a dozen. You know, it's going to be your system and your offensive line that are going to drive it. And I know there's plenty of people out there that will disagree with me on that, and that's fine.
I totally agree with you.
This is just not where I allocate resources when I build my championship teams that I have.
Absolutely.
You know, many.
I think Khalil Herbert's a beast too. I think Khalil Herbert's going to shock a lot of people this year and get way more carries than people expect. I think he's a great fit in this scheme, and he's going to be the Bears running back moving forward. And you know, I know Bears fans love David Montgomery, but I am totally fine letting him test the market next year and rolling with Herbert and drafting another mid to late round running back next year.
I'm curious. Ebner, because he doesn't have the best like relative athletic score. He's not the most athletic guy on the planet, but he was like
great pass catcher.
He was like top 4% in missed tackles too. Like he
Mhm.
made people miss a lot. He's very
The
elusive.
Bears offense is going to be predicated on a lot of these quick hitting passes that just allow these guys to operate in space. And all the receivers they brought in, they're all big blockers. So Mooney, Pringle, Velus Jones, like you're going to have 3-4 guys out there at a time who are going to block linebackers on those kind of swing passes and let these dudes go to work. So back to the scheme, it should be fun to watch.
That's what I'm most excited about.
I think
is the scheme.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're rounded in here on an hour. I think we had one more kind of thing to talk about. Joe, you were talking about the Vegas total at 6.5. You were saying the quote unquote pundits think a lot of them are taking the under there for the Bears. I know we did our schedule release episode a couple weeks ago, but how you guys feeling on that number? Fair? Is it too low? Is it too high? I think all of us had it over 6.5 in our schedule release, but on second thought, where are you guys at in that regard?
I'm still at the over. I'm starting to kind of see why people might go under based off if the offensive line doesn't come together, if you have a key injury on the offensive line. The Bears' plan right now makes me excited where they're going, but it's I don't want to say it's shaky. I mean, it can be blown up with a couple of key injuries.
Any team can, though.
Yeah, any team can. The Bears' depth is just not as strong as probably I would like, or as probably a lot of people would like. I think I said 7, or I think I said 10. So I've got 3 or 4 game cushion there on that 6.5. I still like the over. I guess if I had $100 to burn, I would still be betting the over.
Chris? He's thinking about it now.
Well, no. I mean, I do. Obviously, I'm the optimistic Bears fan a lot of the times, but like I used to get all riled up at these national people, and then like as I tried to become more objective and less like homerish, they make a lot of good points, and Joe just made a lot of good points. So I can definitely see where the underplay is at. I mean, this could be a 4 or 5 win football team. Shit, dude, even 6 wins you that under bet. So I won't be placing a totals bet this year on the Bears just because there's too many things that could go wrong. But it's going to be, I think it's going to be fun to watch. It's also good. They could also surprise some people, they could also end up, going out there and winning 8-9 games. I mean, I don't think they're really a double-digit win team or, a playoff team, but you never know. They could surprise some people. You'd have to have here's what I'll say. You have to have a lot of things go right for that to happen. And you don't have to have a whole lot of things go wrong to end up under 6.5 wins. One thing, because like Darnell Mooney goes down, they're toast, man.
Yeah. I'm going. So what is your final answer? Over or under, Chris?
Under.
Okay.
Even though my schedule release said we'll win more than that, I still I If I'm betting, if I was betting money, I would put it on the under.
He's going under. Fair. I think the over under. I think they'll be. I think the Bears will be right at 7 wins. So I'm going to take the over there. And my 2 main reasons are: I think the defense will be better than people kind of think. I think the Bears unit will be really good. I mean, their biggest hole is on their D line, which is a little worrisome, but they do have some veteran presence along there, and we'll see what they can do up front. Who are their 2 D tackles now? I don't even know.
Tonga and probably Justin Jones.
Yeah, Justin Jones, Angelo Jackson.
Blackson.
Tonga, Mario Edwards, all still in the picture.
Yeah, so like those guys are just fine. I mean, they're not great. There's no Akeem Hicks there for sure. So I'm a little worried, especially, I mean, week 1 versus the 49ers, that D-line is going to get put to the test. But I think overall the secondary, I think, will be pretty solid this year. And in a passing league, that's kind of what you need. Robert Quinn will at least give you some pass rush until he gets traded. But I just think I'm going over to 7 wins. I'm just banking on Justin Fields taking a massive leap, without the influx of players, skill positions and O-line. I think Fields is that good. I just have the ultimate faith in the dude to kind of elevate the Bears game. And I think the Bears defense will win them a few as well. With an easier schedule, I think 7 wins is definitely doable. I think they'll be right there in that 6, 7, 8 win range, but I am going the optimistic route and going over 7 wins.
Krugman, we're taking your money.
Okay.
All right,
did all those sales today.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't care. It's no big deal.
Bears.
One more thing before we close it down tonight. 2 former Bears have found new homes for the upcoming year. One Bear twice removed now. I guess the bigger name, Akeem Hicks, signs a 1-year, $10 million deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And
Good
Kyle
for him.
Fuller signs a 1-year deal with the Baltimore Ravens. Do we like the fit for both those guys, or how do we feel about both those guys ending up on 2 contending teams, 2 teams that have high expectations?
I'm more happy for Hicks than Fuller. I don't really care that much about Fuller. I mean, good player while he's here. Respected him. He had his ups and downs, but Akeem Hicks is probably was my favorite Bear while he was on the team. So, he's just a very likable guy, especially when he got mic'd up. But I feel like he really embraced the city of Chicago and the fact that the Bears gave him a chance. It's definitely kind of a bittersweet moment to see him leave. But obviously, I want to see that'd be cool to see him win the big one before he retires. Like I said, all around just seems like a great dude. And really, I mean, I think him, even more so than Mac, was probably the heart and soul of that Bears defense in 2018. Mac was a great player, but Hicks was always the vocal leader. So, yeah, you will be missed, sir. I am happy to see you in Tampa, though, and go play next to Big Vita Vea. Nice rotational D lineman there. The Buccaneers will be really good this year. They should be awesome.
Is Tom Brady still their quarterback?
He is,
Yes,
indeed.
sir. No.
Good
Akeem
Lord.
Hicks is replacing him.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Their defensive line looks like this now. Logan Hall, Vita Vea, Akeem Hicks, Joe. Well, yeah, sorry. That's their starting defensive line. That's pretty nice little defense.
Who are their pass rushers? They still have what's his name? They
Shaq
still have
Barrett.
the dude with
Shaq
4
Barrett
fingers.
and Shaq Barrett, Tyron Shoyinka.
Do they still have Pierre Paul?
He's not listed on the Ourlads.
Regardless, the D line should still be really good.
Yeah, I think I'm happy for Hicks. Hopefully he can, be in the playoffs and be a contributor to some degree to that Buccaneers team. Kyle Fuller, best of luck with Baltimore. I mean,
Pick off Mitch.
that's fine. He's not even going to get a chance. That dude ain't going to start or play.
Pick off Mitch.
That would be funny though. I wouldn't have minded to see Fuller back here, especially in a Tampa 2 style defense where I think Fuller would be a lot better with his eyes on the ball or eyes on the quarterback. I think he would play better in that style. I'm not sure what Baltimore is going to run over there, but yeah, Fuller's not a bad player. I mean, he had a fucking horrible year last year,
Terrible.
interestingly enough, with Denver and Fangio. So maybe Ryan Pace wasn't so stupid to let him go.
Yeah, I was gonna say, remember how mad people were when they didn't pick up his contract?
So mad.
That's
That was
that's
one
why
of the
we
things
always
that Pace
say
was really
TBD,
good at.
baby. Let's wait and see what happens.
Got to give that old fella. He was actually pretty good at knowing when to let players walk.
No one to hold him, no one to fold him. He was great at that.
Well, fellas,
Facts.
anything else on your mind tonight, Luke? What'd you do for Memorial Day weekend? Lots of boats, boobs, and beer.
No, I just tried to unplug from the work electronics and stay off my computer for a few days, which was nice to just relax, and had a little cookout yesterday, so can't complain. Played some golf, getting ready for the big tournament with Kroger there in Krogman. Going to tear up the greens here in about 2 months, month and a half. So I'm getting prepped.
What are y'all wagering on your round?
What'd you say?
Y'all got a wager brewing up for your round?
We're teammates.
We're on a team.
We're on the team.
Oh, good. Okay, all right.
The BIM squad will we'll live stream our last round.
We'll
I'll
melt.
I'll put a GoPro on Krogman.
We'll melt down in the second in the heat out there in Mesquite. So we'll go ahead and die. But yeah, it'll be a good time. I also played some golf over the weekend, Joe. So it sounds like all three of us got out there on the links. Nice. It was fun. It was a good time. I had a blast with my father-in-law. He's another one of the guys going out there to melt in the desert with Luke and I. So it'll be a good time. Also had a cookout yesterday, or not a cookout, but made some steaks. I went and got a new propane tank from the store. I hooked it up to my grill, and I could hear the gas coming out and smell it. So I was like, I'm not gonna light this because I don't want to die today. So that's what I did.
You don't have much hair to get blown off your head, so sometimes you just gotta risk it.
But I have a whole body that take shrapnel.
I've done that before. The grill exploded and singed my eyebrows.
I've totally done that. I had a full goatee for a long time. So goatee was singed, and you get that hair smell right next to your face. It's just
disgusting.
Great.
Yummy.
It's love it. Luke, you've probably lit a cigar too close to your face before and singed some hairs and got that.
I haven't done that.
Lies. Anyway,
I don't smoke too many cigars. Only once in a while.
I would like to hear Joseph's rendition of "Bear Down."
Bear down, Chicago Bears. Make every play clear the way to victory. Bear down, Chicago Bears. Put up a fight with the might so fearlessly. We'll never forget the way you thrilled the nation. With your T formation, bear down, Chicago Bears. And don't forget why you're wearing the crown. You're the pride and joy of Illinois, Chicago Bears. Bear down.